Did Meghan Markle use a surrogate? That's been something posited literally for well over 3 years when it comes to her firstborn son Archie and even her daughter Lilibet. And many people even wonder, are their children even real? So why do these rumors continue to persist and what is behind them? And so I'm gonna go over some of that today and kind of explain to you guys why I think, despite some of the evidence to the contrary, that Harry and Meghan did not use a surrogate and their children are real. However, I'm going to argue that the reason that they are in this conundrum is entirely their fault. Hi guys, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and if you haven't been here before, we talk about everything related to royals, so that's news, gossip, fashion, television shows, even movies and history. We will do it all here. And like I said, today we are talking about Harry and Meghan and this ridiculous surrogacy rumor that absolutely refuses to die and how they fueled it through making mistake after mistake. So guys, just to kind of start off with, Meghan Markle announced her pregnancy in October 2018, and it was right as they were going on tour in Australia, and I think it was done as a way to explain why some of Meghan's clothes were not fitting her quite right, even though she was very, very early in her pregnancy, because she has a boxier frame, not body shaming at all, just explaining she has a boxier frame. So I think what she ended up doing was, that some of those clothes just didn't fit her well anymore, because she was actually gaining weight quite quickly because she just doesn't have a very long torso. There wasn't a lot of place for the weight to go, and so it was just becoming more apparent very fast. And so I think they just kind of wanted to get ahead of it, just in case maybe she was not feeling good one day or something like that. So they went ahead and made this huge announcement, and almost immediately kind of conspiracies began to swirl. And this is also around the time that you got to remember that we kind of first heard the rumors that Meghan was bullying her staff. One of her personal assistants have left around this time as well, and some of these stories about the bridesmaids fiasco and what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. This was all coming out around this time as well. And what Meghan did, which drove so many people utterly bonkers during the tour, is that she started cupping her sort of pseudo non-existent bump. So yeah, she had gained weight, but it looked more like she was just ate a big lunch or something. There was no like bump. It was literally, she had like a food baby. That's basically what it looked like. And so people were just kind of stunned and kind of put off by this very demonstrative thing that she was doing with her pregnancy. And they even had a picture of her standing in the forest, like cupping her bump. And I get it, it's kind of cute, but it was also just, again, something that was maybe better between a couple themselves and maybe between family members rather than sharing it with the public, because again, she was so early in her pregnancy. It just wasn't there, so it felt like she was just cupping air. And she did this throughout her pregnancy. She was constantly touching it, constantly cupping it. And so, both hands around it at the British Fashion Awards. She, would flick her coat back to kind of make sure that the cameras got, the best shot of the bump. And so I think this started to fuel some of these pregnancy rumors. People said, when she was kneeling down and stuff like that, the bump seemed to move. And I think some of that is just kind of natural with pregnancy. But I think what happened was that Meghan was drawing so much attention to her belly that people were wondering, well, is she doing something over there? Because it was almost like a magician's trick. Look over here, my belly, and ignore that there's actually a surrogate somewhere else. I don't think this was the case. However, it just goes back to Harry and Meghan's micromanaging of their image, and that's what kind of continued to fuel this. So they announced as well that they wouldn't tell us where she would give birth, nor who would be involved in it. It would be perhaps midwives or, some doctors. She refused to allow the Queen's doctors to work with her, and they're the best in the country. So it's just got a lot of people wondering what the heck was going on. And it just kind of, again, fueled this suspicion. And Harry and Meghan have very much played into this lack of trust that they have with the public as well, because they kind of have said misleading statements. They've, if you look at it, it's kind of harder to see earlier in their royal career. But, when Meghan said, well, I don't know anything about the royals and I didn't Google Harry at all, I just wanted to know if he was nice, you kind of felt the collective world go, roll their eyes and go, are you kidding me? Not that, it's good probably that, she got to know him, no doubt, but it's like, but it just seemed so silly for her to go, well, I just want to know if he's nice. Well, you don't, he's a prince. You don't want to know how that could benefit you, that he's a prince. It just kind of was just a little ridiculous for her to say that. And people, again, there was just kind of this lack of trust. You go back to the wedding as well, and no one but her mother was there from her family. No childhood friends were there. And I've moved around a lot, so I'm not as close with some of my childhood friends as I would be if I still lived in the same place, but we still talk from time to time. But I can totally, but you wonder what happened, that every relationship Meghan has had basically almost since college has completely fallen apart, and now she's only friends with Jessica Mulroney, and then that fell apart, and no family members, so she has no uncles, no aunts, no nephews, no nieces, like nothing. And she did, and obviously a lot of people made mention of the fact that, well, her family's terrible, horrible, whatever. But I think this was very true too when I was reading Lady Colin Campbell's book. And she mentioned that, well, the Markles were humiliated. She humiliated her entire family on the international stage by denying them the opportunity to go to the royal wedding. And so, there was kind of tidbits coming out before then, but that really fueled, I think, a lot of the resentment. And again, it goes back to Meghan's actions. She should have just invited her family and just been done with it. They could have come to the church ceremony and not the reception. And so there was many ways she could have involved her family in her wedding, and that she decided not to, left a lot of people questioning her character. And then there was that coat dress that she wore to Eugenie's wedding, where she strategically left the last couple buttons undone just to stoke speculation that she was pregnant. And so Meghan and Harry are very much about theater and dramatics. And so as kind of the pregnancy went on, and they were like, well, we want him to be private so you can't know anything, but also please pay attention to us. It really just rubbed people the wrong way, and really began to make people question their intentions and what they were doing. Kind of interestingly as well, so when Meghan finally gave birth to Archie, we have the easel, and there's pretty much no information on it. We just don't know anything about the doctors who were involved, midwives, whatever, because cannot breach the privacy of baby Archie, who is 7th in line for the throne. Not 3rd like George, but 7th. You just look at that and you just wonder what the heck was behind that. And so Harry and Meghan too just tried to cause as much frustration in the media as they could when it came to the birth of their son. So when the media announced in the morning, and this is just generally what happens with senior royals, they announce that the senior royal has gone into labor. I would assume that pretty much anytime they announced this, to avoid kind of traffic accidents or anybody traveling with them, they've already arrived at the hospital. That makes sense, is that they want to make sure they announce it as, Kate is at the hospital. That's when they announced she was in labor, because they wanted to make sure she was already at the hospital and nobody was trying to track her down throughout London and kind of interfere. And so, but Harry and Meghan made this announcement, and then about an hour or so later, it came out that she had already given birth a couple of hours before. And Richard Palmer said something that I thought was quite interesting in the recent BBC documentary that was kind of very anti-royal and kind of slightly pro-Harry and Meghan. He said they deliberately went out of their way to make the British media look stupid. And they did. And at the same time, though, it's just Harry and Meghan and the press have had this very cantankerous relationship pretty much from the start. So when Harry and Meghan started dating, Harry made this huge announcement kind of criticizing the media, saying that basically all of them were racist. And Lady Colin Campbell talked about this in the book, that the media just kind of reeled themselves back because A, they were just kind of shocked by the whole thing, and B, they're like, well, we didn't really say, like, the vast majority of the reports, nothing was racist. But then all of a sudden they're like, then they were so sensitive about it. So Harry and Meghan were never really in this great place with the media. And so then they did the reveal of their baby. Now, instead of doing it at, on the steps of whatever hospital they were at, or, maybe kind of close to outside their home or something, they decided to do it in a very regal location. And I think that was probably pretty strategic. And they also brought him in, and nobody got a good look at him, because what's nice kind of about Kate and William being at the hospital is that there's photographers overhead, so you can kind of see the baby from overhead. And what was great about George is that he kind of started moving and wiggling, and he gave kind of, they called it the royal wave. And I think that was really great because it kind of connected people with him. And Catherine just was glowing, and you know, it was the day after, and she just looked fantastic. I can't believe with Louis and Charlotte, she left the day of with her hair in perfect curls. I don't know how the woman did that, getting in pumps. And so, you know, rock star all the way. So Meghan came out, and her and Harry and Archie just didn't move. You know, Harry was holding Archie, and they just didn't give the press a very good picture of him, and he didn't move. So this has fueled speculation that the baby was a doll. And some people have said that the baby was older than what they showed. And people are wondering if May 6th is really his birthday. Again, it just fueled all the speculation because Harry and Meghan have to make everything so cloak and dagger. And I think it goes back to this very aggressive approach that Meghan has with the media and hating any negative comments. So she has to overly control everything. And to that extent, she's really damaged her own children because people question their legitimacy because she's trying to create a zoo and speculation about different things regarding their birth and trying to keep them private. Private as they define it, which is not really private. Looking at everything, it really just kind of raises a ton of questions. And obviously as well, you have, you know, Harry and Meghan just, they would refuse to kind of show him. They finally kind of showed him off in South Africa, and it was very much, you know, kind of a display. And she went to the polo match. And again, people wondered because it's like, she just didn't, it was a very stiff way she was holding him. It was just looked odd, and you looked at her and compared her to Kate, and you can't help the comparisons. And Kate is playing with baby Louis, and he's, you know, kissing her, trying on sunglasses, and Meghan does not even look at Louis at all, and Louis looking at her. And so it's just, people just wonder about this and this baby, and this just keeps continuing to be fueled. We have it even in the United States as well. When she was pregnant with Lilibet, people wondered, well, is she using a surrogacy again? And, you know, honestly, given Meghan's age, I would assume, I don't know this for sure, and, you know, again, a lot of women do this, she probably did use IVF, and I would posit, not saying I know anything, but I would guess that maybe for their second child, I don't know, for their first one, they chose a boy embryo, and for the second one, they chose a girl embryo. But if you are doing IVF, you can do that. I don't think they used a surrogate. A couple of reasons why is that when it comes to surrogacy laws in the UK, you cannot pay your surrogate. Your surrogate has to volunteer to do this. This is not the case in the States. So they could have had a surrogate in the States and then fly her over to London to give birth, but that gets kind of complicated. And again, I know Meghan's bump seemed to move and stuff. Oh, I did forget to mention, I think sometimes, I wonder, do not know this for sure, but I would not be surprised if she did pad her bump at some points just to make it more pronounced, because she wasn't maybe gaining weight in the right areas, and she didn't like how something looked, and she wanted it to be more pronounced and look this way and that way. So that could definitely be a possibility, but I do think she was pregnant. Again, surrogacy laws in the UK are very strict, so it'd have to be somebody who volunteered for this. Now, given that they're royals, that could be kind of easy, or they could fly somebody over from the States, but that gets complicated. And the Ukraine as well, I thought this was kind of interesting. The Ukrainians have, you know, are one of the surrogacy centers, so they could use somebody from the Ukraine. But again, they would have to fly them in, be very cloak and dagger. I just think this is a case of Harry and Meghan being stupid about their PR and the strategy surrounding the birth. I think that's what it comes down to. And the other evidence we kind of had that Meghan did have these children is that she clearly gained weight. Again, this is not body shaming. This is just, you know, stating a fact that her body clearly changed, that she carries now more weight in her stomach, her behind is a little bigger. And, you know, that's just, I mean, she could, if she was really, really trying to sell this, gain a bunch of weight and then really, really struggle to lose it. You know, hey, I've had weight issues myself, so not throwing stones in the slightest.
I mean, it is kind of surprising because she does have access to the best things and she has a lot of time on her hands. So it was kind of surprising that she didn't bounce back faster. But you know, if it was all fake, she would have bounced back immediately. So I think she was actually pregnant. But again, I feel like what fuels this is Harry and Meghan being just incredibly stupid when it comes to covering their children. And they also do this thing as well where they say they want their children to be private. They want to raise them privately. They want them to be private citizens, and that's completely fine. However, there's kind of two ways to go about this, and what Harry and Meghan are doing, I think, also kind of makes people question them as well. So one of the things they do is they say, well, we want our kids to be private and we don't want to show them ever, but they talk about them all the time. You know, Meghan was talking about how she couldn't wait to get home to her kids. You know, Harry's told us that Archie likes alligator. Archie's first word was alligator, I believe, which is preposterous. And another multi-syllable word. It was probably blah, 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 blah. Something like that. You know, it was a baby babble and they interpreted it as alligator or something. It was not alligator. I mean, unless he's Mensa or something, it totally could be possible, but I highly, highly doubt it. And we also know that he likes waffles, and so they got a waffle iron from the Queen, or for the Queen, I can't quite remember. He was telling James Corden this story. But they talk about their kids all the time. It makes people want to see their children, and yet we never see them with their children. And that also is why I think people are fueled that the children don't exist, is that we never see them with their kids. So I thought it was kind of interesting when Harry and Meghan were at the Invictus Games recently, is that they were trying to show Meghan be maternal and with all these moms and kids. And I kind of get it. If your own kids are there, it's probably a bit more distracting and you're quote unquote working, even though I think working was a loose term for Meghan during that trip. But they were trying to show her as maternal, but for me, at least, I have a hard time with it because I've never really seen her interact with her own children. We've seen her really interact with Archie twice. Once was at the three times, excuse me. Once was in South Africa. Once was at the polo match where she was just, the whole thing looked awkward. And then we had the birthday video, his first birthday, and she's, you know, kind of giving him kisses and he's in a onesie. I mean, this is just my thing. It just bothered me because I really felt like she was making a video of him for the rest of the world. And he's really, it felt like more like almost in his underwear or in his PJs instead of like so casual. I know that was what she was probably going for, but it was so casual that, you know, it's like, dress your kid. Like, you're showing this video to the world. At least put him in a decent outfit, for Pete's sake. I mean, I know she was trying to be cool California fun mom, but I mean, the entire world is going to see this video. Dress your child. Dress your child decently. Anyways, and so it just kind of goes on and on and on. So people, you know, again, wonder, you got the polo match this weekend. Most of the time, the polo matches are kind of fun in the royal calendar because, you know, Catherine and William bring the kids and we see them interacting and it was a lot of fun. And so I always enjoy the polo matches. I actually kind of became more of a Kate Sugar after watching her with polo with her kids right after Louis was born. She was so natural with them. They were just so natural with her. It was very much a mother and her children. And not all famous people, a lot of famous people do let their nannies pretty much raise their kids. And so you could tell Catherine was definitely raising her children. So again, we know nothing about these kids, and yet they talk to us about them all the time as if they want us to care for them. I mean, even in the Oprah Winfrey interview, Harry and Meghan were basically advocating, we want prince and princess titles for our children. And if they don't give them to us, you are racist. That was basically their charge on Oprah. And so you kind of look all this and take it together and just wonder why. And this is another thing. Now, granted, again, we don't have a ton of pictures of Archie, but I think because Harry and Meghan have caused such a controversy, we doubt almost everything that comes out of their mouths because they've given us a lot of reason to doubt. I have a whole video kind of discussing Harry and Meghan in the Oprah Winfrey interview. I only pause it and I still stick to this. Only about 5 to 10% of that interview was actually accurate information. The rest of it was hogwash in my opinion. If you look at that video, you know, we kind of go over this and there's just so many inconsistencies about what they've done that it just really kind of boggles the mind. I mean, just for titles, for example. So when Archie was first born, they said they didn't want him to have a title. He was going to be a private citizen. I was like, bravo, you understand. He's not going to be a working member of the royal family. He is going to have to live a normal life, get a normal job. That is fantastic. And then it came out later in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Well, they denied him a title and security because he is a mixed race child. And then it was kind of like, and then later she kind of backtracked and said, well, the letters of patent say, which is true, that he is not entitled to the title of prince. He could have been the Earl of Dumbarton, and then we've also been reported that that title was offered or told that he could have it, and Harry and Meghan went ahead and said no because they didn't like the fact that Dumb was in the name. So again, it's so convoluted kind of how they portray things, how they, they're constantly trying to change the narrative. Like, everybody reported that Catherine was the one who cried at the bridesmaid fitting, that she was the party who was offended. Meghan is the only person who's ever posited that she was the victim in that scenario. Meghan is the only one who's ever said that. Every other report ever always said that Catherine was the one who cried. And probably because she was postpartum, it was, probably a tense thing. And so I totally understand why she cried. But again, it goes back to this thing where we can't totally trust Harry and Meghan. So again, going back to this thing, and I know this is strange, and I think I'll end on this. But when it comes to the hair color of Archie, I know, please, I'm not attacking the child. I'm attacking that Harry and Meghan make me question this thing, which is so silly to question of a child, that I just don't know what to think about it. So we've seen a picture of Archie, a couple of pictures. One was one that another woman posted who was a friend of Meghan's, and his hair kind of looked, maybe kind of a very dark auburn shade. And then we got another picture of Archie from behind in the chicken coop, and his hair again looked very auburn. And then we get the Christmas picture, both of the Christmas pictures, and his hair is fire engine red. Now, we know Harry and Meghan edit their photos because they put more hair on Harry's head for sure. So it just makes me wonder though, and again, because I just question everything about them, even if I shouldn't question it, they've just cried wolf so many times that people just don't believe what they're saying. What color is Archie's hair? I don't know. I would be more likely to think that it's more kind of that dark auburn rather than the fire engine red, but I don't know. And I'm not, please understand me. I'm questioning why Harry and Meghan have a narrative that changes all the time to the point where you wonder what a child's real hair color is. And that's what's so silly. And I think, again, this all comes back to Harry and Meghan. If they had not caused such a fuss, if they had not been so convoluted about everything, if they had not been, again, excuse my conclusion, but kind of stupid in this entire scenario, people would not question whether or not they used a surrogate. So, do I think Meghan Markle used a surrogate? No, I don't think so. Again, she gained weight, clearly gained weight. And, with both of her children, she's clearly struggled to lose weight both of the times. No shame in that, just stating obviously what we've seen. And so that's just kind of, again, just reality. That happens to so many women. So absolutely no shame in that whatsoever. But why do we wonder? Why does the surrogacy rumor continue? And it's because Harry and Meghan just cannot leave well enough alone. If they had just done the simple things, told the press when she was actually in labor, told the press when she had given birth, told the press just who her doctors were, if she had used the Queen's doctor, all of these things together would have completely and utterly shattered this narrative. Also the bump flicking, because again, it looks like she's drawing attention over here and doing something sneaky over there. That's what she was kind of doing in that scenario. So again, if she had avoided all these things, if they had just done the normal Kate and William thing, they would be fine. People wouldn't, for the rest of maybe Archie and Lily's life, they may deal with questions about this surrogacy. And the only people they have to blame are their own parents who have fueled these rumors. And so guys, let me know what you think of this video. What do you think of my conclusion? Because obviously I've had a lot of people comment about the kids don't exist, there's a surrogate involved, all these sorts of things. Again, guys, I do not think that is the case, but I would be interested to hear what you guys think of some of my conclusions. Do you think Harry and Meghan really screwed it up when it came to kind of their children and this narrative around them? And do you think maybe they can write it? Should we see the kids more? Would that help So anyways, guys, again, let me know what you think. I really want to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Bye.